Hello dear viewers, welcome to the making of the flower cube project that you see in this demo. This video will look at the materials and lights and stuff like that. For the geometry node setup, check out the link in the description or the one in the card that appeared during this demo at some point. For today, we will look, like I said, at the materials. Before we start, I want to give a big thank you to all of you that are supporting this channel by purchasing the project files that I put on Gumroad, like this one. And for the people that are subscribing, commenting, giving a like to these videos, all of these things are helping this channel grow. So thank you very much for doing so. Now, let's look at this project. First, let's see the world shader, the one responsible for some of the things that you see in the background. We also have this fog material that is adding a little bit to the entire thing. I'm going to disable it for now. So this shader, this is the color palette that I use for this project. This shader, it's composed. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it if you want to take some screenshots. Okay, we have two parts. First, generated coordinates that are controlling basically everything. I kind of duplicated this. It's not necessary. You can use the same. And I have this HDRI from HDRI Heaven. So if I mute this mask, we can just see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, this is the HDRI that I used. It's from Polyheaven. You'll get the link in the description of the video. This is the name of this HDRI. Then I use the mask to mix what we see in the camera and everything else for light and reflections using the camera array, camera array. So this is the part for the responsible for the light. If we mute this, you see the effect that it has on the geometry. And then we have this setup that it's controlling what we see here in the background. And for that, I used this wave texture that you see here with these values. And I made it move a little bit by doing the hashtag frame thing and controlling the speed and plugging this into the phase offset. And this is giving us this motion. I made it kind of subtle, so it's not disturbing. And this is basically a mask that is controlling the mixing between these two colors, as you can see here. And then because the result was still too strong, I used this mix RGB with add function and added the white color to these two colors that you see here to get a more faded effect. And everything was passed through strength reduced by half. So this is how the background was built. I'm going to the object and checking out the fog material. This is basically a cube, the one that you see here. Flatten it out and I applied the scale. And then I did again object coordinates and a little bit of moving of the stuff. And I used again the wave texture, passed it through this color ramp with these values that we see here, and this is responsible for controlling the density of our fog basically. And for the colors, I also used the mix RGB with the same colors like before, and this output was used as the factor to mix between these colors. So we get this result that you see here. If I am to go back to the world shader and mute this part for a while, you'll get to see the result of this, how this one looks basically. It's a subtle subtle effect, but it adds to the entire thing. And now let's switch to the flower and see the inner and outer materials, the one responsible for getting this interesting effect. And if we look at another frame, let's say 150, 160, 70, yeah, 75 maybe. You see at some point we get a smooth surface, and that's all because of this attribute here, Morph Factor, the one that I showed you in the geometry nodes how to get. This is coming from the geometry nodes, and it's basically telling the shader when things are morphing. So I use this to control the effect. So how was that achieved? Let's go to someplace else, like here. I'm gonna do this full screen so you can see it better, the entire setup. Okay, and using the geometry nodes coordinates, because this is moving and I want the texture to stick to geometry, not move crazily. I use the UV map generated by geometry nodes and then use this wave texture with these settings to get this result. And then I pass this through a color ramp to get the roughness map, that it's being also mixed with this factor that it's controlling. It's coming from the geometry nodes and it's controlling the morphing. And this, like I said, it's used for the roughness map, and this factor is also used to control the scale 0 to 1. It's a 0 to 1 value to control the scale of the displacement that we generated here, and that in turn gives us this result that you see here. This is the color that I use for this. Let me get closer. Okay, and what I did on top of this, I use this Fresnel value, pass through a color ramp to get these strikes here. Then I use the mix shader to add this emission value, and that in turn gives us these things here. If I mute this one, you'll see the difference. Things look like this, but with this one we get this nice result. This is also using the subsurface to enhance the effect, and the subsurface needs this value activated, subsurface translucency. And I also added this light that it's helping with this geometry to make it more to emphasize the transparency of it. And this light, it's using this value that you see here. Okay, going back to this material, if we look at the inner material, it's pretty much the same, very simple differences. The only thing that I did for this one differently is these colors, because if we look at 180, it was, yeah, you see the shader has exactly the same colors, even though we are having two pieces of geometry. But if we go to a different frame, you can see this is a different color, because I mixed this color with this color, and the factor used was again this morphing factor that it's controlling in geometry node the transformation. So I'm passing this information to the shader to change the color as this is morphing, and then this is exactly the same like for the other one. So this is it for this project. It's all that it's interesting. Apart from that, we just have some lights with these colors and a camera with some settings, but that's a simple stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for supporting this channel. Hope you find this information useful. So use it in your project and